Alright, so first video of the new year. However, first I do think it makes sense to look back at some of my favorite video game experiences on the deck for 2022. And honestly, it's kind of weird to think about considering the Steam Deck is a PC, and historically I have been a console gamer save for some brief flirtation with PC gaming when it came to like World of Warcraft. And considering I had been so entrenched in the console gaming world for like 30 years, it's weird that I even went for the Steam Deck, and truthfully I was very close to just passing on the system entirely. However, it did end up winning me over with its console sensibilities, and about 50 videos later, here we are. So all that being said, here are some of my personal favorite games that I got to play on the Steam Deck in 2022, and I'm not really going to go in order. However, I will say the first entry on this list was one of the first games that I played on the Steam Deck, and it's not surprising at all that it would appear here, and that is Vampire Survivors. And I feel like this game really started to break out over the past couple of months as it expanded to Xbox and mobile, but make no mistake, wherever you play it, you will find a chaotically great time here. It's definitely one of those easy to learn, hard to master sort of games. The controls pretty much amount to moving your selected character around on screen while letting your weapons and abilities fire off automatically. So you only really need to be concerned with basically movement. Whether that's moving out of the way of danger, or just straight into the fray if you're powered up enough, or seeking out chests and drops on the battlefield in a way not too dissimilar to Pac-Man seeking out a power pellet. So that sounds simple enough, but I promise you it is a devilishly addictive game, and I have found myself time and again just saying, okay, I'm just going to jump in for like 1 or 2 runs, and then before I know it, like a few hours has gone by as I just keep jumping right back into the fray to slay even more hordes of the undead. And at $4.99, it is one of the best bang for the buck propositions on the Steam Deck as far as I'm concerned. Next up is another chaotic game, although maybe slightly less so than Vampire Survivors, but again, speed and precision reign supreme, and that is Neon White. Neon White is immediately eye-catching thanks to a slick presentation with top-notch voice acting from a range of literally colorful characters and an anime aesthetic. But the gameplay is just as polished as the presentation. It's a card-based FPS with an emphasis on short-level design that really serve as little puzzle boxes where you're constantly rushing not just to complete the level, but to do so efficiently. There are usually a few ways to complete any given level, but knowing when to use a card's attack ability or its movement ability is key to getting the best time. But even when you fail, you can jump back into the fray pretty much immediately, so there's a ton of replayability here and just a lot of incentive to go back in for subsequent runs to see if you can get a better ranking. The best analog I can make when describing Neon White's movement would be Doom. No, it's not exactly the same, but in terms of fluidity and how addictive and responsive the controls can be, Neon White absolutely nails it. And even though it has a beefier, more engaging story than something like Vampire Survivors, it's still incredibly well lent to quick pick up and play sessions since levels can be as short as 30 seconds or less, so there's a great sense of progression even if you only have 5 minutes to jump in and do a few runs. And speaking of shooting things while moving fast, the next entry on my list would be Rollerdrome. Now, I was sold on Rollerdrome leading up to its release on the visual presentation alone, but with its retro feature, cel-shaded look, all of the high-speed skating violence really pops off the deck screen, and it doesn't miss a beat keeping a steady frame rate amidst all of that action. Take Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and throw in a range of dangerous munitions and thoughtfully designed enemies, and you'll have some idea of what to expect in Rollerdrome. You enter stages, try to survive, and do tricks along the way to make sure that your ammo is topped off at all times. And while you can obviously get eliminated by a whole range of sneaky enemies, thankfully you can't bail out, which I think is a really good design decision considering you're going to be so focused on the whole, not dying thing. Because I think it would have been really annoying to try to stay on top of perfectly landing every grind and flip, and also, again, just trying to make sure that you don't get hit by some stray rocket. And much like Neon White, it also rewards staying on the move and looking for creative solutions in the moment-to-moment skirmishes. Next up is a game that slows things way down compared to something like Neon White or Rollerdrome, but it is nonetheless still very addictive, and I spent a ton of time playing this game in 2022, and that is PowerWash Simulator. After burning away hours and hours of my free time cleaning off playgrounds, cars, and even a massive treehouse, I still can't get enough of this game. There's no real failure condition, and you can just take as long as you want, either solo or with friends, just cleaning stuff off with a power washer. And it is completely bonkers to me that one of my favorite games of the year would be one that essentially is just a manual labor simulator, but hey, here we are. And I think the reason that it works so well is because it doesn't rush you, and the worst obstacle you'll encounter is finding the right angle to clean a tricky hidden spot of dirt under a random step or in the crevice of some oddly shaped statue. Performance is totally solid across the board, and I gotta say that out of all of the chill games I've played, PowerWash Simulator confidently lands among the very best as a relaxing way to unwind after playing a more taxing game or just at the end of a long day. In fact, I'd say it's borderline therapeutic, and if you were put off by the idea of cleaning things for fun, I can assure you it is extremely satisfying seeing a filthy skate park gradually get restored to pristine condition, and then seeing sort of an instant replay of all of your hard work paying off. And finally, the last entry on this list is one that is slightly more action-oriented and adorably macabre to boot, and that would be Cult of the Lamb. One part cult management simulator and another roguelite hack-and-slash combat, Cult of the Lamb is a satisfying cocktail of fast-paced action and chill resource management. And all of this is presented in an adorable chibi style, which makes the horrifying rituals you'll be performing just a little bit easier to swallow, considering that, in addition to harvesting berries, you'll also be tasked with sorting out how to dispose of your dead followers' bodies in the most efficient way. Pretty dark. And as such, this game definitely won't be for everyone, but anyone who does opt to give Cult of the Lamb a shot should find a very approachable game that's got a lot of moving parts, but ultimately those parts are easy to understand and tightly designed. Sadly, I've only been able to put a few hours into it so far, but I'm definitely jonesing for more of it, particularly considering my girlfriend has already beaten this on the Switch, and I figure it's only a matter of time before she accidentally spoils something for me. But hey, if you're the sort of gamer who's in the market for some light action that places a huge emphasis on managing a cute range of cuddly followers to do your bidding in service to an ancient deity who may or may not be way worse than the forces standing in your way, then I can confidently recommend Cult of the Lamb. And that about wraps up some of my favorite Steam Deck experiences for 2022, which really was no easy task considering I put about 40 or 50 videos out on the channel in 2022, and there were a ton of games that I also considered putting here, but ultimately I've covered them previously, so I decided, I don't want to make this list too awful long, but, for some honorable mentions, I would throw in games like Yakuza 0, Sunset Overdrive, Dead Space, what else? Gunlock, which was recommended to me by a viewer on the channel. Thank you again for that. I do not have your name handy at the moment, but yeah, there were a massive amount of games on the Steam Deck, and I feel like I've only scratched the surface here, particularly as somebody who is not natively a PC gamer and does most of his gaming on console, or at least I used to until the Steam Deck came along. But yeah, long story short, I think the Steam Deck had a tremendous debut in 2022 and had just like a massive library of games that weren't just fun to play, but ran extremely well on the platform. So those were some of my picks, but hey, what about you? What games did you enjoy most on the deck in 2022? Please let me know in the comments below because I'm always looking for more suggestions. As always, thank you so much for watching videos on this channel. I really, really appreciate you. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you next time.